Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Laban here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Monday night on News Channel 5. Plus, plenty of topics to get to over the course of the program. The Senior Bowl underway today down in Mobile, Alabama. John Burton down there covering that for us. Jordan Matthews, one of the guys that impressed a lot of scouts on day one. The former Vanderbilt receiver who will obviously go high in the draft and certainly seems to be the type of player that can have a lot of success at the next level, just like he did for the Commodores, where he broke all sorts of Vanderbilt and SEC records, both for seasons and for a career. Several other guys down there as well, both from Vanderbilt and Tennessee. Wesley Johnson of the Commodores, Jawan James, Daniel McCullers, among others from Tennessee. So a lot of guys getting looks from NFL scouts, from NFL coaching staffs, and the Titans are certainly amongst that group. A lot of the scouting staff is in Mobile. Also some coaching faces as well. Mike Mularkey, who is expected to be officially introduced as part of the Titans offensive coaching staff sometime this week. Of course, Mularkey, former Jaguars head coach. He is down in Mobile already. He can't comment on his position yet because it's not official, but all indications are he will be officially named to Ken Whisenhunt's staff in the next 24 to 48 hours or so. The Titans did make a couple of moves to the staff today. Official, Ray Horton will be the defensive coordinator, as has been widely reported now for 3 or 4 days, including by us. Horton, who spent last season as a defensive coordinator in Cleveland and was really the only good thing going on in Cleveland last year, is a guy who has worked with Whisenhunt before. He was Whisenhunt's defensive coordinator in Arizona. Now he comes to Tennessee to head up this defense, and he will have one of his old assistants in Arizona on his defensive staff. Louis Chofie will be the Titans' defensive backs coach. He is, again, a guy who coached under Whisenhunt with the Arizona Cardinals during his time out there in the desert. So as Ken Whisenhunt pieces together his Tennessee Titans staff, it definitely has a feel of a staff that he has worked with before, guys that he is very familiar with and feels comfortable with, and he's bringing those guys to Tennessee as they try to turn this franchise around and get the organization headed in the right direction, which is obviously a playoff berth. So what do you think about that? Some of the moves you've seen so far in just 5 or 6 days. And I guess the real question is, Titans fans, everybody wanted to know about the hire. Who were they going to get? Who do they bring in? Now that it's Ken Whisenhunt, and you start to see some of the mechanisms at work in the few days after his hiring, what's a realistic expectation in your mind for what Whisenhunt can do here in Tennessee, both next season in his first year with the Titans, and then long term? What do you think about the Ken Whisenhunt hire and where he can take the Tennessee Titans? In Arizona, he was able to get a Cardinals franchise that was really floundering to 8-8 in year one, and then all the way on a run to the Super Bowl in year number 2 with Kurt Warner as his quarterback. Is Jake Locker a guy that Ken Whisenhunt can take that path with here in Tennessee? Do the Titans need to go somewhere else in the draft? Whisenhunt certainly has not tipped his hand just yet as to what he plans to do with that quarterback position, but he's a guy that has a lot of experience with quarterbacks. Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh, Kurt Warner in Arizona, Phillip Rivers this past season in San Diego. So you know he is evaluating that position, both currently what's on the roster and then what's available to him out there in free agency or the draft, to try to figure out how to give this team the best chance of succeeding at that all-important quarterback position. Also, since the last time we talked on this program, Vanderbilt has hired a new head football coach, Derek Mason, former defensive coordinator out at Stanford, coming to West End, very familiar with the requirements of a school like Vanderbilt, so you have to be pleased with that if you're a Commodores fan. And I think you have to be pleased with just the swagger and intensity that he brings to Vanderbilt. Derek Mason is a guy that sort of learned toughness in the blue-collar way under Jim Harbaugh at Stanford and has maintained that energy and intensity on the defensive side of the ball as the defensive coordinator under David Shaw. And just strictly speaking X's and O's, if you can't be impressed by a guy who completely shuts down Oregon's offense in back-to-back years, you're very hard to impress because Oregon's offense has run roughshod over everyone in the Pac-12 and elsewhere, but Stanford has had the formula to stop the Ducks the past couple of years. And a big part of that goes to Derek Mason and his ability to scheme those guys up on the defensive side of the ball. I think one interesting thing to me about the Mason hire, if you have any concerns at all, because he's not a established head coach in the past, that's not an issue by itself, but he is a defensive guy. When he was at Stanford, the success that they had were from coaches who have a lot of offensive background. Jim Harbaugh, David Shaw. Mason was sort of the leader on the defensive side, especially the last couple of years. As he now takes over at Vanderbilt, what will his hires be on the offensive side of the ball? What will the creativity be? What will the scheme be over there? And to a larger extent, maybe now, what will the feeling on that offensive side of the ball be? What will the offensive line look like? Because some breaking news tonight, offensive line coach Herb Hand will not return to Vanderbilt next season after meeting with Derek Mason. Not completely clear how it all went down, but Herb Hand will not return after 4 seasons in this program, 3 of which under James Franklin, where he really became the leader, the spiritual leader in a lot of ways of that program. He was very instrumental after Franklin left of sort of holding the pieces together for Vanderbilt. And now he's out the door. He is going to rejoin Franklin at Penn State as his offensive line coach, according to a source. So Herb Hand going to rejoin James Franklin, a huge coup for Franklin, who continues to pull pieces away from this Vanderbilt program now and take them with him to Happy Valley. And certainly an issue for Derek Mason now as he goes in and tries to win over these guys. Not that he has a tough job of doing that, because I think the reception was great on Saturday. But now here's a guy in Herb Hand that has been so instrumental in recruiting a lot of these guys and holding them together in the last couple of weeks. Now he's packing up his office and heading elsewhere. How does Derek Mason respond with the players? And then what are his hires on the offensive side of the ball that gets Vanderbilt going in the right direction? Because there's certainly some talent there, but how is it going to be used in Mason's mind, as he takes this program from good to a great level? That's the challenge for him. One thing you can say about Mason, though, is he's used to this sort of transition because he was at Stanford when Jim Harbaugh really put the Cardinal back on the national stage, very similar to what James Franklin did at Vanderbilt. He brought respect back to Cardinal football. Franklin brought respect back to Vandy football. And when Harbaugh went to the NFL, everybody said, oh man, Stanford's going to drop off now, because that was all about Jim Harbaugh. And what Derek Mason said about that transition, what he learned there, is Jim Harbaugh brought blue-collar toughness to Stanford. But he wasn't the program. And the players in that program took a lot of disrespect to all that talk that they were going to fall off when Harbaugh left. And when David Shaw took over, they kept all those attributes that Harbaugh brought to that program. And then David Shaw made Stanford chic. He made them a cool team on the West Coast. And all those guys use that motivation of nobody believes in us anymore to really light their fire to move forward and go from a team that all of a sudden had respect back in the Pac-12 to being a team that is a power in the Pac-12 and has won Pac-12 championships now in back-to-back seasons. Ray Horton was a huge part of that. And now that's his job at Vanderbilt. A lot of people out there believe the departure of James Franklin means Vanderbilt's now going to trend back downward away from this upward slope that they've been on the last 3 years. And Mason said it doesn't have to be that way. Vanderbilt has now gotten the respect and is now viewed as a good program. It's our job to take it to the next step and make it great. And as he said, I don't have to be James Franklin. I'm not going to be James Franklin on any day. I'm Derek Mason. I'm your new football coach, and we're now headed to do even better things than what we've done before. You walk away from that press conference. It is a very, very impressive message from a bright guy who understands how it's done in college football. So I think a lot of Vanderbilt fans really took heart in that after a couple stormy weeks around the program, that they feel once again like they have a good guy and a bright guy running the direction of their program. A couple other notes for you. The Predators at home tonight against the Stars. They lead 2-1 after one period. Carter Hutton back in net after Devin Dubnyk really struggled in his debut the other night. The Tennessee Lady Vols had a lead at home against number 2 Notre Dame, Fighting Irish, 16-1 on the season, and they came out in the second half and lit Tommy Bull on fire. They were just absolutely unconscious in the second half, pulled away, and won easily over the Lady Vols. And a game rescheduled from earlier this fall, or this winter, December, because of bad weather in the Northeast. Fairfield unable to get down here to Belmont to play. They played that game this afternoon over at the Curb Events Center. J.J. Mann, 15 points. Belmont wins 62-53 over the Stags of Fairfield. The Bruins are now 14-7 on the year. We can talk about any of those topics. We can also get to some sound from Derek Mason and Ken Whisenhunt as well. Our phone lines will be open, 737-7767. When we return from our first break, we'll get to a couple callers who are already on the line, plus more open lines for you as well. Again, 737-7767 is the number. Stay with us. We are just getting started here on SportsLine on News Channel 5+.